I'm Daria. Hello, everyone. I work at Babbel as an SCM manager, and I specialize in app advertisement mainly. And I have been working here for 1.5 years. And like Anastasia said, I won't be any different, and I'll be talking about custom product pages today. Um, we have been experimenting with and using custom product pages in our Apple search results campaigns for a while now. And today I'd like to share some insights and learnings that we have gathered over time. But before we start, I wanted to ask you something. Now the event team will launch the poll. Let's hear, for what purposes do you use custom product pages, if you even use them at all? And you have until the end of the presentation to answer, so don't rush. And yeah, we'll go over your answers at the very end. So let's look at the outline of the presentation for today. First, I'll start with an introduction to Babbel, what we do and who we are. Later on, I'll talk a bit about the background story of how and why we decided to adapt to custom product pages. After that, I'll mention our current status, and we'll finish the presentation with some best practices we believe to have helped us, and one success story that we are happy to see the results of. So Babbel. Babbel is a language learning company that was founded in Berlin in 2007. Later on, our New York office opened in 2015. Now, to this day, more than 750 people work in both Berlin and New York offices. We are also proud to have a very diverse employee base with over 60 nationalities. As I mentioned, Babbel is a language learning company and is subscription-based. There are both web and app-based platforms, giving the users the flexibility to choose from whichever they like. We currently offer 14 languages, and we are active in Europe, North America, and the LATAM region. Overall, we have been in the market for over 15 years. We actually celebrated our 15th anniversary last year in October. And in Babbel, we believe that creating mutual understanding through language is key in our lives. So we stand by this mission statement in whatever we do. And now we have reached more than 15 million subscribers globally, and we are proud to have reached this milestone. So to dive into today's topic, I should give a little bit of background. Why did we start using custom product pages in the first place? What was our starting point? To sum up the need for our custom product page usage, we can say first and foremost, we were looking for a way to take optimization further because we already have a pretty well-structured and monitored balance in our account. So we were looking for something other than increasing keyword coverage or new bid strategies because we already are at a level where we need a little something extra. To achieve this, we turned to custom product pages. This way, we would have the opportunity to talk to our customers based on what they needed, and hence the tailor-made creatives that matched the intent of the user, in this case, their queries. It was a perfect meeting point for us and being there when they are looking. Thirdly, the personalized ads off option presented to the users makes audience targeting a bit harder for us. So we are not relying too much on the audience targeting in our campaigns, but rather we heavily depend on the user queries, especially for the very reason I mentioned just now, being there when they are looking. And lastly, we wanted to break the creative blindness cycle, but in a clever way. So we know that users don't always tend to convert right away when they first search for something. but rather they go back and forth to decide. So during this journey, they might have already seen us multiple times. Even though in Apple search ads, for search results, the ad appears in the first row before organic results, they might develop a blindness towards the creatives they have already seen multiple times on different occasions. So to get past this, CPPs, we find them to be a great way to touch the users with different creatives and also with the ones that answer their needs. That being said, let's go over our current status and see how we approach the creatives and the implementation with some examples at the end of this chapter. Going over the creative direction approach first, one of the first things that we did was to decide on the main points that we wanted to focus on and then think through how to accomplish them. The three main points that we decided on were to attract, to overcome creative blindness, and to match intent. To attract the attention of potential users, we used bright eye-catching colors that would do the job visually. While doing that, we revamped the in-app screenshot and added new ones to reflect the messaging and also support it. All of this, at the end of the day, served the purpose of overcoming creative blindness. After the decision process, we went into the creation phase. So let's talk a bit about how we implemented this approach. We first selected the campaigns and targeted keywords. This is the very starting point that gives direction to the creatives and the content. So everything relies on the keywords, also known as the intent of the users. So once we selected the targeted keywords, we thought about the matching messaging. We repurposed some of the claims we already had, and for some, we created new ones from scratch. Also, while forming the messaging at this stage, it is important to check out the competition, seeing where you are standing compared to them, and understanding the positioning gives a whole new perspective when establishing your ideas. As this is very much related with design, and as the design aspect is very important for this strategy, as I mentioned before, we chose to use more eye-catching and bright colors to grab the attention right away. And also, we didn't miss out on the most important element, collaboration and the alignment between teams. So we collaborated with the ASO and the creative teams to stay true to the essence of the brand. And we didn't forget to align on the test periods and especially during promo periods. So here are some examples that we have used. On the upper side of the slide, you see our default ad, which is a bit dull with toned down colors without too much contrast. But on the lower side, however, you see our custom product pages that are designed considering all the points that I've been mentioning until now. And you can see how different they are from the default ad. Here we have the brand and the promo CPPs. You can see that they both have different messaging, and therefore in-app screenshots, we try to understand and think of what is more important to the users that land on that specific targeted keywords ad and design and implemented the custom product page according to this. Here are two other examples of CPPs that we use. These are for number queries. Depending on the query, meaning the user intent behind it, the competition status, or our own matching features, the content changes, of course. The messaging, the features, in-app screenshot, and colors. So whatever needs to be highlighted, we highlight that specifically for to correspond. And so moving on to the best practices, to what we learned from doing all the tests and implementations. So this is like our own guide to CPPs, if you will. So we have a little bit, we created a small do's and don'ts list that we have deducted from our own experience and that we follow as well. So on the do's side, we have, but with any type of ad, it is important to know and understand your competition. So obviously do research on them. Your brand image is everything to the users. It should be consistent overall. So stay true to it no matter what. Shaping and creating the concept, the design, and the content of the CPP lies within understanding your users and why they might be interested in that specific thing. The queries are our hints here, so we should use them. After you understand the intent, you can now match your messaging to showcase how you are able to provide an answer to that need. This also includes highlighting and literally showing a specific functionality or a feature your app provides. And after all, CPPs are visual representations of what we can do, but in a little space. So remember to use them wisely. It is also possible and beneficial to use CPPs to push and boost the seasonality or promotional effect. As I've shown you in the example custom product page slides, we are currently using them and benefiting from them. Lastly, remember that especially if you offer more than one display language in your app, it would be beneficial to target different languages other than the native language of the targeted country. And as for the don'ts list, as you go further down the custom product page hole, you might want to make your structure more and more granular. I mean, this works up until a point, but further than that certain point, it becomes rather disadvantageous. You need to find a sweet spot for your app and find that balance. We are living at a time where the average attention span is down to a few seconds. This also applies to CPPs or any ad for that matter. The last screenshots are simply not being looked at by a lot of users. So focus your energy mainly on the first few screenshots to get the most out of the CPPs and your energy and workload. The ambiguity might leave the users with not knowing exactly what to do. So always be clear with your messaging and CDAs. Also, if your starting point is to match the intent of your user query, then you shouldn't rely on very generic content either. And lastly, I wanted to share some of the results that we have achieved and explain them by breaking them into two main pillars, creative and performance results. I will be referring to our brand custom product page case. So first, I'd like to mention the reasoning behind our choosing brand campaigns to experiment on. As I mentioned before, we have a pretty good and saturated structure, especially in brand. So we are always looking for different ways to increase the performance for brand without hurting it, of course. And over the last year, we have been trying to increase our custom product page coverage throughout our account to increase relevancy. Of course, we started with safer bets like non-brand campaigns, but it was time for us to expand to brand territory and explore what we can do there. Lastly, our goal was to refresh the creatives to break the inevitable creative blindness that builds up over time. For creative results, we now have visually appealing creatives, as you can also see compared to the default ad. They can grab better attention, as you'll see also in the performance slide, performance results slide as well. We have more contrast in colors, which adds to the eye-catching effect and also helps with the distinction between messaging. We revamped the in-app screenshots to match the new messaging. And we stuck to one main message per slot. We find this to be the best working solution. And overall, we kept it simple, basically. And if you realize, this is a summary of what I've been talking about until now about creatives. And as for the performance, we were really happy to see these positive results in such a short amount of time. These might seem very small numbers compared to Anastasia's slides, but don't forget that this is our brand campaign, and it is a very saturated campaign. So these are very good accomplishments. So we had a 7.2% increase in TTR. As I said, this might not seem much at a first glance, but don't forget that this is our very saturated brand campaign. So we are very glad to see this happening. And we were also happy to see that the attraction strategy worked here, and we were able to increase TTR. And with this increase, as we go lower down the funnel, other metrics were also positively affected. Our costs went down, CPT 11.3% and CPI 16.4% to be specific. And again, this is a brand campaign, so lowering the costs made us very content, as you can imagine, as it is sometimes not very easy to achieve with a saturated structure. And lastly, the impression to install also went up by 13.7%, which was again a great accomplishment for us to increase installs even more than the TTR increase compared to the default ad during the previous period. And yeah. So that concludes my presentation, but let's have a look at the poll results. So our question was, for what purposes do you use custom product pages? And it seems like almost half of the audience is using them to target various segments of the targeted audience. And very little percentage, 3%, is using it to reflect all app features. Actually, 23% is using it for all three options here, which is, I think, great. I think you're on the great track. Because this is also what we do. This is what we strategize. And yeah, to get a boost for seasonal campaigns, 6% is using them. Add 23% on top, 29, 30%. Yeah, it's also not a very bad percentage, I guess. And then 13% haven't tried out custom product pages yet. I heavily encourage you all to at least once try it out and yeah, see how a custom product pages performs.
Thank you so much. We just have one question from the chat, and it's, how do you use custom product pages for seasonal campaigns?
For seasonal campaigns?
Yeah.
So for this, our approach is not very different than the one that we have with any other CPPs. But of course, during promos, it is essential to highlight your best offer, that is the discount percentage. That's what we are doing. Okay. So greeting users with the discount to increase conversion rates. I think this is the key for the seasonal custom product pages.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great presentation, great insights. Thank you so much for joining us. Really, really
Same.
appreciate it.